he already applauded, but you're gonna do it another time, one more time. So, warm welcome to our guests of honor, the film producer Malte Grüner and actor, director, and producer Daniel Brühl. Okay. Thank you for coming here, despite everything that happens in the world. And so I have to remind our audience that Daniel, he has his debut as a director, and it's called Next Door. The world premiere was in Berlin, and now the film travels around the world, and now you have the premiere here in Odessa. In short, this is a story. This is a story of who? This is a story of an actor who comes to a bar before going to the airport, and he meets his stalker, who belittles him, blackmails him, who I don't know, like humiliates him exactly. And so the first question that I have, and I have a few questions of mine, and then we're gonna get the mic to the audience. This way, talking about the actor, structuring the film like you did, is it your way to be humble and to repent your sins as a celebrity, or is it your way to be a dick and tell everybody like, see how my life, how terrible my life as a celebrity, as a film actor is? So what is it?
Neither nor. It's the idea was born quite some time ago. I think 10 years ago, in a restaurant in Barcelona, and I was sitting there. I just moved to Barcelona for a while. I was born in that city. My mother is Spanish, and I was so proud to finally have my own place and not staying with my parents' house. So I wanted to make sure that everybody in Barcelona knows that now I live in an apartment on my own. So I was running around the streets with my keys, mingled with the people, or at the market, I spoke in Spanish loud about Barcelona when Messi still played there, and in Catalan and so forth. So if I would see myself how I was, I maybe also would slap my face and tell myself, "Guy, keep it low." So there I was in a tapas restaurant with my little suitcase and my coat, and I saw a guy, a big guy, and he looked at me like in a Sergio Leone western, without blinking, and I could immediately tell that he profoundly dislikes me. He said, "Who's that clown who is so frantic to the wind as he talks about Barcelona?" So, and that was the kickoff for that idea. And I thought, like, why is that? Why does that interest me so much? It is also because, this one of the main themes for me was always gentrification. I guess that's how it started. So the intention, to come back to your question, was not so much to make a film about myself, because I'm vain, but not that vain. I was thinking, I wanted to tell a story about two very different guys and about gentrification. And I just quickly found out that my profession, my persona, is a wonderful target for someone like Bruno in the film, someone who you can attack. And sometimes rightly so, especially the version, it's not me, I hope you would agree if you see the film that this is not me. This is a guy you should attack, or you should ask certain questions. And that's how it started. So it wasn't the idea, I'm gonna make a film about my terrible life and how much I suffer as a celebrity, but rather, a story, a tale about gentrification. How can I do it also with the comedy? I wanted it to be fun, and then I quickly found out, that's a good constellation.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
If I might add something, I think the film. I'm not sure how many of you have had a chance to see it or will possibly see it tonight. I know that what Daniel Kielman, the writer, what we tried to do is a film that is about more than just this one thing. It's yes, it's a story about celebrity, and it's a story about being sort of hated for being a celebrity, but it's also a story about gentrification, or sort of hopefully it's also a story about gentrification. It's also very much a story about the ongoing conflict between East and West Germans, which is sort of even 30 years after unification, an ongoing conflict. A lot of people from the East, sort of Bruno, sort of the nemesis in the film, has a distinctly Eastern German biography that is very typical.
Yeah, we suspect he's a Stasi. Yeah.
Well, so he actually was in jail in East Germany, so he wasn't a collaborator with the Stasi. On the other side, still he's bitter because he's lost his job, he's lost his apartment, or his father lost the apartment, and Prenzlauer Berg, the area in Berlin where the film is set, it's a borough of Berlin. It has 120,000 people in the borough, 90,000 of which changed in the last 20 years. And obviously, the sort of economic pressure comes from the top down. Sort of the lower 90% of former inhabitants of Prenzlauer Berg moved out, further out of the city, to the suburbs, and money is coming in. So it's about gentrification, it's about East-West, it's about Daniel's experience, and it's also about what it means to be an actor. And it's not in the sense of what it means to be an actor in the public, but what it means to create a persona. There is an element in the film that sort of where that also is a part of it. So we certainly tried to make it about much more and to instill a lot of issues that we feel are contemporary and relevant into this very small two-hander.
Okay, I'll tell you my perspective on this film. You may not agree at all. I thought it was a film about actors' anxieties, actors' insecurities, and from my perspective, it could all happen in his head. You know, like he prepares for this huge casting, and he wants to get this part, and all the things that he keeps going in his head. Maybe my wife cheats. Maybe I'm an asshole. Maybe this, maybe that. And so the question is to Daniel, what are your actors' anxieties when you approach something big like that? Because you are the part of the Marvel universe, and I'll talk about that later.
Yeah. I'm very anxious, and and some of the lines that I say in this film are actually, are true, and things that I have in common with that arrogant fella there on the screen. It's when I say in an audition, I'm 50% less good, and then the neighbor says, 50% of you, that's not that much, which is a great line. I'm very nervous when I feel that the pressure is coming. What I experienced, now that you mentioned Marvel, is when the people are so clever that they let you forget that there's actually a huge pressure behind it, that you're tricked and you're fooled, and your system, the voices in your head, are not talking to you anymore, and you feel at ease and you feel loose. And the Americans, I have to give them that. You can criticize them for other things, but in that case, I always found that very impressive. How on bigger projects, very big projects, you kind of forget. You forget about your fear. You don't realize that you were nervous. Maybe after the shooting day when you're standing under the shower. But and this is a great way to work under such circumstance, or in such an atmosphere. And that's what I, in my little film, wanted to create too. having professional but nice people around you, no asshole. And and really, what is so beautiful about filmmaking is the collaboration. So every single piece, it's like a watch, has to function. And if you have nice ones with expertise and highly professional, as I had for my film, which was a huge privilege in every single department, then something. There's a pause. Which is the next word? I got lost. Then you can do some fruitful work that fulfills you, that feels rewarding.
How do you understand that you are ready to make a film? And Monty, how do you understand that Daniel is ready to make a film and back him up with that?
I think Daniel was on a route to directing. Anyway, we've been partners in a production company.
Amusement park films, we should say that. For the audience, these are the partners in amusement park films, and they produce films together.
Yeah. So we actually first met working on the film together called The Most Wanted Man, which is based on a John le Carré novel. Anton Corbijn directed it. Philip Seymour Hoffman's sadly last film, Rachel McAdams, Willem Dafoe, and we met in 2012 because Daniel's also in the film. And in 2015, I think we met again because Daniel had a clear interest in becoming more involved in a professorial role or in a filmmaker's role rather than just an actor's role, and because we have very similar taste, I think to use a very old American proverb, we both claim for ourselves that we do know shit from Shinola, and so we became partners in the company, and first sort of in a producer's role or in assessing material, or in combining sort of the network with other filmmakers and creators that we know, and clearly Daniel had the interest of taking on more responsibility and being involved in all the other processes, sort of script development, editing, post-production, and shaping the whole film from beginning to the end. So to me, it was a process that had started several years earlier together, and when Daniel then had this idea, that sort of first came to him in a bar in Barcelona and approached Daniel Kehlmann, best-selling German novelist and fantastic writer, and he agreed to start working on the script, and they started working together on the script and developing it over about a year, 3/4 of a year, fairly quickly. It was very clear that this was something that was makeable, achievable, and a great quality of Daniel as a collaborator or as a first-time filmmaker in that role was also his fearlessness in admitting to what he didn't know. I think in filmmaking, it's one of the great qualities, and it goes for every department, to know what you don't know and to ask for help in the aspects that you don't know.
Before I get back with the same question to Daniel, I'm going to ask the short one, address the short one to you. You produced the films by Mike Lee, by Anton Corbijn, by Daniel Brühl, who was the biggest pain in the ass
I'm not going to say that. None of these three. None of these three.
David McKenzie, yeah, right.
No, so him neither. I'm not going to say a name. I'm not going to say a name. No, I mean clearly, I've had the luck of working with fantastic filmmakers from. We're just imposed on a film, All Quiet on the Western Front, directed by great German director Edward Berger, who some of you might know for his work on a show called Patrick Melrose with Benedict Cumberbatch. We did a film with Julie Delpy, with whom Daniel collaborated sort of several times prior, and it was very impressive to see someone take on three responsibilities of, script writing, directing, and starring in a film. And sort of among this list, which is not yet complete, there are some collaborations I will not repeat, and I'm not going to tell you which ones they are.
Daniel, when did you realize that you're ready to shoot your first feature? And I heard that, I read that Julie Delpy actually was the one who encouraged you to go into directing. Is that true?
Yeah, she was one of them. Yeah, and I remember how many times I asked her, how it's like and how she would feel about me going, in that direction. And she was very encouraging, and so was a friend of mine, the great Mexican actor Gael García Bernal. So I always talked to actors who had done this step already and who had directed something. And what was funny was that all of them said, but don't act in it. It's great that you direct, but don't be in it. And then I thought, shit. Shit, I already had the concept in my head. And to be honest, when I look back at this experience, it was actually beneficial. It helped me to be in the film, weirdly. And maybe it's also because of the structure. I mean, we had the luxury. First of all, I did without knowing, a pandemic-friendly film, 2 actors in a bar. I mean, when we started rehearsing this, it was the very first day we started rehearsing, the virus had arrived in Berlin. And then, for a couple of weeks, I thought, this project is going to die. Yes? And it's thanks to the strong-willed and courageous man next to me, Malte, who said, "Oh no, we're going to do it." And the distributors and some other people who saved this project. But that wasn't easy to deal with that. And now I got lost. I realized that I was ready to direct. I think it was the timing was right, because as I said before, I mean, this idea was circling around in my head for 10 years. And it's always a good sign if you think, like, still after 10 years, think there's still something there. It's still, that could become something. And then I needed to be reassured that this is really a film, a potential film, and that's what Malte just said. Is the first step was meeting Daniel Kehlmann, being brave enough to tell this famous writer in Germany, do you want to do my film? I was so nervous when I pitched the idea to him. But he engaged, and so quickly he wrote a phenomenal first version. The next important step was Peter Kurt, the actor who plays my neighbor, because we always had him in mind. I had him in mind, and so did Daniel Kehlmann. So when he came back to us after 24 hours and said, "This is the present. This is such a joy. This part, and I'm accepting." This was the moment, the final moment for me. I have a movie here, and I'm ready to.
And if I might take Peter Kurt, who's a fantastic actor and a star on stage for many years, and also a very nice and friendly guy, but he can also be very intimidating.
Okay. And was Hanne Brühl, your father, the TV director, right? Was here any inspiration for you for this project, for the way you direct films?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't have become an actor in the first place and a director if it wasn't for him. So yeah, that was definitely a major influence on everything I do.
Okay, and we have the list of actors, directors. Some of them very, very prolific. Like Clint Eastwood is 91. Another film is going to be I think in Toronto or somewhere. So do you have a role model from this list? I don't know. You see Sean Penn and think, okay, I want to be a director like that. Maybe choose the projects the way he chooses them, or somebody maybe Julie Delpy. I want to choose the films the way she chooses them. I know it's a silly question. You never have an answer for that. Okay.
No, I mean, there's not that one role model that I have, clearly. There's actors, European actors, whom I've always admired. If they manage to be, interesting in what they accept locally in their own territory, in their own country, but also abroad. And then, yeah, absolute stars that come to my mind are, for example, Javier Bardem and Mads Mikkelsen. It's very impressive to see in the long time that they are around and keep on surprising you. I mean, Mads Mikkelsen with Another Round, recently, what a wonderful movie that is, and then and same for Javier Bardem. So these would be my role models now. When I was 15, I got a VHS player. Probably most of you don't know what that is. Where these heavy things that you put in, the quality was terrible. But I was so proud.
Actually, you can buy VHS cassettes here in Odesa.
Can you?
Yeah. It's available. It's available.
And I miss MC, the cassettes. This is what I miss. That was my youth, to do mixtapes. I haven't seen those in a long time. But anyways, I had this Panasonic VHS player, and I started watching classics, and that very much influenced by my father's taste. And this was actually the moment when it made click, is to see all these cool guys of the 50s, of the 60s and 70s. I mean, and again, Europeans, Mastroianni, Alain Delon, Belmondo. And I stood in front of the mirror and tried to look as cool as Belmondo. It never worked. It still doesn't. But this was like, it wasn't only the cool movies at the time, like Pulp Fiction or Winterberg's Westen or so, but it was also these old, timeless, cool movies that made me want to do a film, made me want to dream of being a film actor.
What do you feel about Hollywood making European actors to play the villains all the time? Do they just see you as the villains, from this old continent, old country?
I was relieved that this happened, because it was the other way around. I had a very successful film when I started, when I was 21, which was called Goodbye Lenin. And the film
was a huge hit here, actually.
Yeah.
The beloved one.
Yeah, and it's so funny because we all, thought this is a fun script. Hopefully people in Germany like it. And then we did not expect it to be so successful abroad. So it was very, and for me being that young, it was a very interesting experience to go to film festivals and people still laughing. It's a German comedy. People laugh, actually. It might sound like a contradiction sometimes because they're very unfunny movies in Germany, but that was such a great kick-off for me, obviously, to be at the Berlinale. I remember Dennis Hopper gave me the Shooting Star Award. I mean, that was a night. And after that, we had the premiere. So that was quite something. And still, I'm so incredibly happy and thankful for that film. But then after some time, it slowly, sometimes it felt a bit like a curse because I was put in that box. I'm the nicest guy in Germany. So all the scripts I was sent was always like this yeah, the friendly guy, the son-in-law. And I found myself in situations where I was in a supermarket and I had to sign on cucumber glasses just because I do that in the film. And it's like, everyone, so today, no, I don't say this word. Why does not anyone send me something different? I want to be the evil. I want to be the villain. And then it was the Americans. It was refreshing that the perspective from the outside was so different. And there's certain parts that German directors never would have given me. Like Niki Lauda, for example, who's not...
The Rush, yeah, by Ron Howard.
Because that is a nice ambivalence there. He's definitely not a likable guy, but he's also not the classic, cliche villain, but a very interesting and layered part. And I found it so cool. I met Peter Morgan, Ron Howard, Andrew Eaton in London, and I was sure that they would never give me the part. And after that one conversation, I got a call from Ron Howard with his typical voice, "Hey, man, I really want to be with you." And I was like, really? So that was nice to be seen differently. So I don't have a problem at all playing, these parts, including Marvel. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to put on that coat. Oh yeah, I love it.
Okay. So when Martin Scorsese says that Marvel films are not cinema, it's an amusement park, what's your take on that?
I mean, especially when it comes from this man, I totally respect it, and I don't expect anyone to love it and to like it. I personally see that
Millions of people love it.
Yeah, and it's pop culture. It depends if you like pop. It's the same with music. I have some guilty pleasures and listen to it in the car, and some people might say this is horrible, but I don't mind if it's, as long as it is good entertainment. And I think for me there's a lot of bad entertainment where there's nothing for me in there. But with Marvel, I always thought there's still it's actually quite complex when you think about when you allow yourself to get into it and have an interest for that. I know many people who say, please don't, I'm not interested at all, and I totally accept that and respect that.
I mean, fantastic actors, fantastic directors take part in that franchises, and this is so great, actually. But the question is...
Look at Black Widow.
Yeah, exactly.
Kate Shortland. I mean, who's more art house than Kate Shortland?
Exactly. And then they give more opportunities to women, and it's more inclusive.
And no asshole policy? Like really, there's not any asshole. It's a big crew. It's not like my film, which is what I say. They treat you well, and honestly, I don't want to sound like a Marvel producer here, but no, really, they treat you well, respectfully, and Kevin Feige, the mastermind behind it, is a very curious guy. He goes to see all the plays in England. He watches all these European art movies. He's really he's interested in actors. He's interested in directors. So he's a very smart guy. So really, I have nothing bad to say. It's not like in the movie. In case you watch it, you will see that I'm making fun of that kind of universe, but this is ironic in that case. Actually, one of the voices who's calling me is a Marvel producer.
So this is based on the true events. Okay. How did you get in? How did you get in? Was it through Chris Hemsworth and the Rush movie? I don't know. I'm just curious. How did you get into Marvel? How did they approach you?
Yeah, I think it was after, just because Kevin Feige had enjoyed this film. And then I was in London, and I got a call from an American agency that this man wanted to meet me, Kevin Feige wanted to meet me the next morning for breakfast, just to talk about the project. And then I panicked because I thought, next morning, it doesn't give me time to watch all these tons of movies that they had done in the meantime. So I hadn't watched, and I'm not such a comic nerd, so I was sweating, and I felt like, oh God, if he asks me tricky questions now. And then when we had breakfast, actually whenever I could sense that there was a tricky question, I interrupted him. Probably he then thought, what a cool guy. And actually I finished the meeting. It's something that you never do, because as an actor you always hear, and they have this magic watch in their heads, all these agents and producers. Magically after exactly 15 minutes, they always say to you, well, that was great. It was wonderful seeing it. You know? And that is, I experienced that so many times. So now I meet Kevin Feige and I do it. Just because I panic that if we talk longer, you know, I say, who is your, what character in what movie was it? So, and again, I thought like, that was miserable. I mean, I interrupted the meeting, I never hear back from him, and yeah, a couple of days later he said, no, we're doing this. And he wanted to meet me because he, actually thinking about this character, he wanted to change the character according to me, which was also fantastic, you know. Again, I cannot say anything negative about this guy.
Let's talk a little bit about your next project that you're developing. Not developing, but filming, maybe in post-production for Netflix, the All Quiet on the Western Front. And you got balls to do that because first you got the classic novel by Mark, and secondly you got the classic film from 1930. Nobody remembers that, but yeah, it got the best picture. So how did you get the idea? Can you tell about the project? What is it going to be? Is it a huge epic? Tell about that.
All Quiet on the Western Front. It's based on a novel by Erich Maria Remarque, which I wasn't aware until I became involved with this, is to this date the best-selling German language novel of all times. It was first published in 1927. It was turned into a film in 1929, directed by a guy called Louis Milestone. Universal produced it. It won an Academy Award for Best Film and Best Director in 1930. The novel was obviously banned by the Nazis. And then became a huge worldwide success. It had become a worldwide success. It was banned in Germany and then but continued its success story around the world. And it's a novel that impressed me very much. I had read it as a teenager, 14, 15. The protagonists of the book are not much older than that. They're 17. It's a story of a group of boys who sort of enter World War I voluntarily, thinking of it as an adventure, and out of false national pride, and go to the Western Front. The Western Front, sort of through Flanders and France, was a particularly bloody and futile part of World War I. 2.5 million people died in the trenches on the Western Front and I think from 1916 to 1918, the front line moved by about 500 meters, and that's where 2.5 million people died. So it was a very impressive book as a teenager. I had read it again in my 20s, and then through some circumstances, I got sent by a UK lawyer that I knew from other projects, a script. 2 American writers had written a script, and they, for reasons I don't understand, had also managed to have the option on the Remarque book for 12 plus years. They had never managed to actually make the film. But I thought, well, this is an opportunity. It also wasn't a script that I was going to make. There were some good solutions for the narrative structure and adapting the novel into a script, but there were also many parts that I think had strayed too much from the novel, but it was an opportunity to get hold of the rights, and I met with the agency that has the Marx literary rights all over the world. They are based in Zurich. And on the way from the meeting, I called Edward Berger, who I knew and who was very early morning. He was on the set in New Orleans for Your Honor, Showtime show with Bryan Cranston that he did. And I called him up and said, I think I'm going to get the rights to All Quiet on the Western Front. Do you want to do that? And he said, hell yes. I said, should I send you the script? And he said, yeah, I'm not going to read it in the next 6 weeks anyway, and if it's not right, we'll fix it. But yeah, we're making this. And that was in November of 19. And then in February of 20, during Berlin, we went out and pitched it, still with the old script, which is, we sort of rewrote that before we actually made it. But we went out and it sort of became very quickly a hot commodity in Berlin. There was a lot of interest, among others from Netflix, to turn it into a big film. It's a Netflix department that's based in London called International Original Film. Their mandate is, as they tell me, is basically to find the European Roma or the European king or sort of the European two popes, because all of these films had originally been made by Netflix in the US, and they established this European unit to make these sort of special films, but under the Netflix banner. And so it then took us another year, and we started shooting end of February this year, which was fucking insane. Because no, it was. How do we? It's pretty much the opposite of Daniel's film, which is a two-hander in a bar that we had built on a stage in a studio. All Quiet on the Western Front. We had 7,000 plus extra man days, horses, tanks, trenches.
Everybody should get tested, right?
Oh, clearly, we were shooting it in the Czech Republic, which this spring had one of the highest COVID rates worldwide, certainly in Europe. So we were running a protocol of between 1,500 and 2,000 PCR COVID tests a week. Everybody got tested every second day, and we obviously had positive cases. Thankfully, nobody got very ill, but obviously we were able to finish the film without stopping it.
Do you realize that this is a Netflix project, that lots of people are going to watch it on their phones? What's your take on that? It's the question to both of you. I mean,
okay, so the idea that we spend 2 years on making something with great aesthetic care, with the director and our DP, James Friend, sort of meticulously planning every single shot. And then the idea that most people are going to watch it on this is utterly depressing, because not only are they going to watch it on this, they're going to download it and watch 15 minutes of it on their commute to work and 15 minutes on their commute back home, and then they'll skip through the next 15 minutes at double speed. And so it's utterly depressing
But at the same time, and that's a more that's a more general question. And so both Daniel and I both come from an art house world. We love art house films. Sort of we've grown up with them. I think what we as a company have done or established ourselves is a, let's say, sort of a slightly more commercial tier of art house, and films should be seen in movie theaters. On the other side, the audience is not our hostage. We can't force them to go to the movies, and clearly there is a worldwide crisis of art house film in its theatrical expression. And it's not just Corona and lockdown and sort of and everything is a catalyst, but it's really just speeding up a development that's been ongoing for a really long time. So I think, and obviously there is an ongoing conversation about theatrical windows, simultaneously releasing, or giving a 2-week theatrical window, a 3-week theatrical window. Currently, the standard from all the studios, Warner, Disney Plus, sort of is I think it's 32 exclusive theatrical window, and if sort of it's successful in theaters, that get extended to 48 days. And after 48 days, it seems to be that all the people that actually wanted to go and see a film in a theater with the immersive experience and see it with the best possible sound and picture quality have seen it. It's almost unheard of nowadays that films have a theatrical run that continues after 6 or 7 weeks. Films, sort of, nobody goes and sees a film in its 8th or 9th week. So my hope is that regardless of which studio you're working for, whether it's Fox Searchlight, now owned by Disney, whether it's Disney, whether it's Warner, HBO Max, whether it's Universal, who are bringing out Peacock all over Europe sort of soon also, that no matter who you're working with, that sort of there will be the protection of this theatrical window and of the opportunity to see a film the way it was intended to be seen by the makers. But again, sort of the audience is not our prisoner, and the audience has, it seems, decided that for a lot of them, they'd rather see it in a different way. And given the choice of should they then not see it, because I wanted them to experience it differently, or will give them both options, I'd rather choose the second.
To justify that the audience is not our hostages, we'll give the audience the mic. Now, please raise your підіймайте, будь ласка, руки, хто хоче поставити запитання. Так, будь ласка. Yeah, you should wear, we'll see if it's in Ukrainian, then you should wear that. I'll help you with you switch it on. Так, будь ласка.
Hello, it's so great to see you both, and I want to ask, how was it working with Sebastian Stan and Sam Wilson in the show?
Yes.
Could you repeat, please?
It's nice to see you both, and I want to ask, how was it to work with Sebastian Stan and Sam Wilson, Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Do you like to work in this show, and your dance in the first episode was awesome?
Okay, so now we're going to talk about Marvel.
It was terrible working with these two. They're very, they've known each other for so long, so they're joking, they're very childish. So there was so many situations in which it's so hard to focus. I mean, Anthony Mackie is the worst. Even short, a split second before the word action, he's still, telling a joke. So I really had to get used to that. No, what I said before, and including the actors, they embrace you. When I entered this universe, I thought like I would be the new kid at school who stands in the corner and nobody's playing with me, especially since I come from Germany. Nobody would be interested in me. But it's again the Americans, who are curious. Hi, who are you? They just, they engage and they let you participate. So and especially these two were very welcoming. So I entered this family and felt immediately like a part of that family. The dance, oh my God, that was just. And it was a silly improvisation. It wasn't even in the scene. It wasn't in the script. But I was just standing there, heard the music, saw the people dancing, and then I just thought I go for it. And even the camera guy didn't know what I was doing because that was not part of the. I was supposed to just stand there, and I found that very boring. And I thought like I'm gonna do these. Weird moves, and then it became a thing. This is something that I still don't understand how these laws in the internet, these memes, how that works. It's only 2 seconds in the show. I thought, what the hell is going on? Even kids in a German supermarket, even with my mask, they recognize me and started to do like this. It's crazy. But if it happens, it's fun.
So, Bless, what kind of doors did Marvel open to you?
Doors?
Yeah, like professionally.
Career-wise. What we have been discussing before, it's I have to say, my movie is now out in Germany, and because of various reasons about the problems that the art house cinema had beforehand, as Malte rightly mentioned, and you could see this gradually, when I started 2003 or 2001 with the first movies, and you look at the numbers nowadays, it's really depressing. And on top of that, the coronavirus. So few people have seen the movie, and I cannot blame them because I myself have watched most of the movies at home with my beamer, at least not on this, but on a wall. And then I get sent these Academy screeners, and instead of going to the cinema, also because you get them before they come actually out in the cinema, you just have your glass of red wine or your Coca-Cola, and then you watch it at home. So I cannot blame. I got so angry when I heard about the numbers, but then I said, what about me? When have I been in the cinema the last time? And so it is also in my environment. And therefore, to have a commercial success and to have something that people in the supermarket, do the move and have seen it. My nephew, who is 19, finally takes me seriously because I've been in this Marvel thing. He wasn't interested at all in that all those years, but now I'm Zemo. So I have to say that it is a good feeling if sometimes what you do is seen. It's seen by so many people. If on the other hand you do stuff that really matters, you put so much of your heart and soul in it, and then only a few people finally watch it. So that wasn't really your question. I'm getting lost today. No, because these things work so well, it has an impact also on your career. Because, these things in the industry matter. Because then, all of a sudden some more people know who you are, and so you've been involved in something, in a franchise that does work. So it has a positive influence. I wouldn't exaggerate and say that it is fundamental and crucial for my career if I'm in a Marvel movie or not, but it definitely it helps. It is not, you know, it is not a problem.
Okay, next question. Here, please. Okay. Мікрофон не працює. Можемо зробити гучніше. Можете ще раз, будь ласка, спробувати? Ні. Ми не чуємо нічого з цього. Можна гучно сказати? Ні, та тоді вас не буде чутно перекладача.
Hi. So, first of all, your movie is incredible. It's awesome. And I saw a lot of like personal from you there. And just in case if acquaintances and new acquaintances is personal for you, I will leave my contact details to this girl, just in case you want a new acquaintance with me. And the question is, with the details. The question is, what does the success means to you? Yeah, separating from the happiness, the success, and the second part of the question, what is your relation with success? So it is your truly desire or some things to do or to-do list and so on.
Thank you. Do you truly desire success or do you truly desire failure?